we're taking a tour of some fantastic train layouts at one of the coolest train shows in the country, coming up right now on the main track. Well, hey everyone, it's Mike here, and thanks so much for climbing aboard today. You know, we had a lot of fun at this year's St. Louis Railroad Prototype Modelers Meet. And as always, it was great getting to meet a lot of you, so thanks to those who stopped by our booth to say howdy. There was so much to keep us busy inside the Gateway Convention Center, but also outside around the St. Louis metro area with the home layout tours. That's always been one of my favorite parts of train shows. And for this episode, I want to give you an overview of just some of those layouts. Now, I wasn't able to get to all of them, so I narrowed them down to 5 HO layouts and one honorary one, and I'll explain when we get to that one. Well, first up is the beautiful East Bluff Terminal Railroad. This freelance layout by Joe Visintine is set back in 1971, and it's set in Illinois along the Mississippi River bluffs on the Illinois side of the waterway, south and east of the city of St. Louis. The 95-foot-long main line traverses rural and urban areas. There's also this large 13-track yard, and his engine servicing tracks provide an example of what kind of units are on his roster. I also noticed most of his rolling stock is custom lettered for his East Bluff terminal. The one thing that really stands out here is his rock work. Now, if you've ever been to the real area, you know the scenery is spot on. And while Joe's layout is freelanced, you'll see plenty of power from nearby prototype roads that ran through the vicinity, such as the Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio. Well, next on our tour is Bill Wehmeier's layout depicting Kansas City. Bill's layout, which appeared in Great Model Railroad's 2006 magazine, is set in the late 1970s. The Missouri-Kansas-Texas is the dominant road on this layout, but you'll also find trains from connecting railroads like the Rock Island and Kansas City Southern. Well, that 1970s time frame allows Bill to run some locomotives from Katie's pre-1972 red paint scheme, along with the latter green and yellow. Now, this layout depicts the urban area around downtown Kansas City. Its 135-foot-long main line passes through industrial areas with plenty of towering warehouses.
There's speed limit signs on the road, there's stop signs, grade crossing signs.
I think he did a great job on this viaduct that allows some trains to soar over the city streets and main line down below. Back at the Gateway Convention Center, dozens of Fremo modules were set up inside a 60 by 27-foot area. Well, these modules are owned by modelers from across the region who get together at events like this to construct setups that often span several scale miles. We watched as these Illinois terminal units switched the grain elevator complex. During the show, visitors saw locomotives and rolling stock representing several eras, pretty much something for everyone. And speaking of Illinois Terminal, that's the road featured in our next layout.
It is okay, well, I should probably make my way out.
Well, this here is Steve Goring's amazing Illinois Terminal layout. Well, the layout, set in the 1960s, features a 100-foot main line. Well, the railroad modeled here is the Illinois Terminal's now abandoned O'Fallon branch, which was on the Illinois side of the St. Louis metro area. It ran from the Illinois Terminal's main line near Troy, Illinois, and south through O'Fallon, Illinois, to Peabody Coal Company's St. Ellen mine.
It was the last thing anybody recognized. It was tore down, I don't know, about 5 years ago, maybe something like that. And there's a QR code, you hit the QR code on the information site, and that was Steve's layout, so people can see what it really is.
I really like the trees on Steve's layout. He told me these are super trees from Scenic Express.
But the St. Ellen mine was what the major reason of the trail is what it was. And now it's a bike path. And it's a bike path that goes up to Troy, Illinois, where there's a lot of bike paths in Madison County. From the Nickel Plate, Pennsylvania, and New York Central.
Steve was able to pack an amazing amount of detail into a small space and into bench work that's just a few inches wide in some spots. One of the neat spots represents Pate Junction. It's named for the two intersecting lines here. The spelling of the point is pretty unique, the PA being for Pennsylvania Railroad and IT for Illinois Terminal. Steve's Illinois Terminal layout was featured in the July 2022 Model Railroad Craftsman magazine. Well, from the flat prairies of Illinois to scenery that's definitely quite the opposite. Next up is Gary Hoover's 1950s layout depicting Virginia and West Virginia. Gary's work has appeared several times in Model Railroader magazine and other publications over the years. He's built several layouts over the decades. Well, if some of the scenes look familiar, it's because many of them are inspired by the photography of the famed O. Winston Leak. And while the states and railroads modeled here are prototypical, the individual towns are freelanced. Gary does a perfect job of capturing the look and feel of those communities that dot the Appalachian coal country. Now, one thing that really stands out about Gary's layout is the season. It seems like most of us set our layouts in the spring or summer months, whatever year we model. And there are a few who go for the bright colors of fall, but as you can see here, Gary models the frigid months of the year. Now, it's not a winter wonderland with deep drifts, just a light dusting of snow across the hills and hollers. Well, this RPM tour was being held on a toasty summer evening in July, but during our visit to this layout, you couldn't help but feel a slight chill in the air. Well, I'm sure Gary had his AC cranked up for us, but this amazing scenery certainly helps set the mood and feel of those cold winter months. Well, Gary has some of the best looking water I've seen on a layout. Well, he was kind enough to share with me his recipe and tips, and I'm excited to use those on my own MKT layout for the Truman Lake scene that I'm building. And now for another layout depicting a different mountain range here in North America. Well, this is Richard Rand's narrow gauge masterpiece. Well, this might look like the Rockies of Colorado, but the layout is actually set in the panhandle of Alaska during the 1910s. Well, it's certainly not a state that we see a lot of layouts representing these days. Well, I think this is a great example of using creativity and thinking outside the box and recreating a location and theme that hasn't already been done by a lot of other modelers. Well, this layout is O in 30. Well, that means the world is an O scale, but to replicate the narrow gauge trackage, modelers use a width equal to HO between the rails, so it comes out to about a 30-inch gauge. So O for O scale, N for narrow gauge, and 30 for 30-inch gauge, O in 30. These deep scenes with breathtaking scenery and towering trestles really pull your mind in. You can really get lost as you watch the trains traverse the grades and soar over these canyons. All of the structures that we could see were fully detailed inside and out. Modeling in a larger scale allows you to do that a little easier than, say, HO or N scale. Richard is one of those few lucky ones who's able to combine his love of model railroading with making a living. He's the owner of Berkshire Valley Models, which produces highly detailed craftsman kits. Much of his product line caters to hobbyists modeling the narrow gauge lines. We wanted to thank all of these layout owners for opening their doors to us during the St. Louis RPM and giving us a chance to admire their hard work and beautiful displays. As for the other layouts I wasn't able to get to during this year's event, I'll look forward to seeing those sometime down the line. Until next time, here on the main track, all aboard and all the best.